Hey, welcome back to the channel. All right, it's time for the semi-annual top 10 champion rankings. We go over every single class. We do the best of that year. And then, of course, we do the top 20 overall in the game. And now we are doing Mutant. Now, I always include my Discord server. It is an incredibly smart server of people playing the game in a variety of ways, at a variety of levels, at a variety of paces. But they are all very smart in this game. They all get to select and nominate champions and then vote on them. And I like to present that because I think it is very helpful to the community to see all these incredibly smart people, all these incredibly smart players, how are they ranking champions? Now, if you've already seen the breakdown from Baron Vega and Cabro on how the metrics is used and defined and all that, you can jump straight to the rankings. I have a timestamp in the description, but the one thing I always want to make sure everyone reads in here is the most important category, because it is broken down in categories, is the champion you enjoy playing the most. Give them a 20. Give them a plus 20, and then that's how you will know who you should rank up for sure, definitively, because the champion you enjoy most is almost always the best one for you to rank up. All right, let's go ahead and jump to it. This is Baron Vega. Vega's asked me to do the introduction and explanation of his metric system that he and his friends from SSX came up with. In general, every champion is given a total score out of 40. I have been given a 31, which although I've been told is extremely good, I do believe it should be significantly higher, and I'm sure you agree with me. General is a possible 10 out of 10. This is essentially just how good is the champion. We all kind of intuitively know it. How many powerful abilities do they have? If new content comes out, are they some of the first champions you think of? Battlegrounds. It's an important mode. Great rewards, and a chance to really use your roster and strategy and knowledge of this game. There's a possible 10 points in your defensive capabilities of your champions was able to be included. I'm a great defender and a fantastic attacker. Therefore, I got an 8 out of 10. It should be a 10, but it's an 8. I'll take that up with Vega later. In war, you are not allowed to include your defensive prowess in the score. It is also out of 10 points. I've been given an 8, which, as we all know, is ridiculous. But I am told that it means this is a reliable attacker that is used often to take a variety of nodes and defenders, and you frequently see them used in high-tier war. Long-form content. Necropolis has the best rewards in the game, and long-form has a total score possibility of 5. Again, I should be a 5 out of 5, but they've given me a 3, meaning I was either able to be used consistently for a fight or two, or maybe very good in one lane in Necropolis, or I was good in Gauntlet or EOP. I happen to know I was phenomenal in all of them, and Vega is just wrong here, but that's fine. We'll move on. And then ease of use is a possible total 3 points. 3 meaning you are easy. Think of your archangels. I bet that Cabro gets a 3 out of 3. That guy is mindless and simple. And then the toughest is a 1, meaning your Tigers and your Kate Bishops, and I am too smart to ask anyone to spend that much time trying to learn how to play me. A 2 is just right, and this is the 1 score, aside from the 10 out of 10, that Vega got correct. All right, that Baron Vega, he really does enjoy leaking things, talking about the conspiracies. And, you know, he was talking about an earlier iteration of this format where there was a possible 40 points. Ease of use used to be a 5 out of 5. We changed it. It was, like I said, it kind of led to some odd interactions and some results that just didn't really do a good job of displaying what it is we thought was most powerful. So we've moved that to a 3 out of 3, but he did such a good job. I don't want to upset that guy. He's pretty intense. All right, we're going to start off with our honorable mentions of Professor X and Domino. They were actually pretty close. They came in with a total score of 23. So our number 10 mutant champion is Sunspot. Now, Battlegrounds, and this isn't the only champion you're going to hear me talk about, depending on when you watch these, what part in the series you catch up on. There's other champions where Battlegrounds, it has not made champions better, although it has given many a role like Sunspot, where they're just so good in it. But I think it's also allowed us to realize, hey, there's champions outside war, or those every once in a while long content or something like that. They're phenomenal, they're well made, and they can do a ton. And then we're using them in war or in questing or things like that. Sunspot's a perfect example of this. In general, we have him a 7 out of 10. Battlegrounds, he's one of the best nukes in the game. Has almost no defensive prowess, though, whatsoever. So a 9. 5 out of 5. We will see him sometimes used. Like I think TJ, Tom Jarvis, used him last war season, if I remember correctly. So he can be there. He has that really nice, perfect block mechanic. And then you know, we talk about passive power gain mainly with the Cosmic or the Mystic champions, but Sunspot's got it too. That's a part of why I think he's so long lasting and so powerful in this game. Plus, he's just cool looking. Look at that guy. Long form, there's really not much there as far as long form with him. I mean, maybe there's a fight or two if you can think of one. I had trouble thinking of one. I don't see him as an Acropolis option. And should of these other long form content or even just moderate form content come out, he's not someone I'm going to immediately think of unless the fight just seems to really shout out Sunspot. And then ease of use. I mean, this is about as easy as you get when it comes to this power level. Sunspot 25. I don't see him going up or down. He's very strong here. And feeling good about it. All right, let's jump to our number 8. There's a tie at number 8. Number 8 champion is Toad. Now, you've been following my channel long enough. You know, I'm not a fan of Toad. I don't like him. I don't really like the design, despite recognizing that it's very good design. He's not a champion for me, but I recognize how strong he is. Came with a total of 26, and you can see, I think this might be part of why I don't love him, is in general, he's a 6. This is very low. In fact, I think this is the lowest of all the champions you'll see that makes a top 10 as far as just general use. It's rare as it like you're on a quest and you're like, oh, you know who I need to bring? I need to bring Toad. It's usually a very specific ask. The thing is, those specific asks are real, and then he is one of the best for them in Battlegrounds. He's taking out those skill attackers for you, or defenders, sorry. And then he also can be a pretty tough defender if they don't have a poison immune, and then even if they do, sometimes it can go a little sideways for you. So he's a nice dual threat in Battlegrounds, especially if you're very smart about how he works and you can set him up well. In War, same idea. There's these tough fights, tough defenders, Nick Furies and things like that he's really well designed for. Like I said, the design is good. I just don't enjoy playing him that much. Long form, I see almost no value. Watch 2024 will be the year of Toad in long form, but I feel confident with the 1. And then ease of use, you know, you could make an argument, I think, for a 2, but he's really a 3. The 2 is really, if you're having to watch, particularly like that Nick Fury fight, and you really wanted to watch how many active poisons you have to ensure that when Nick goes into a second life, they turn into the passives. Toad is a very strong, good champion, and there's a reason why so many incredibly smart players like DLL and a lot of the boys over there in SSX love Toad. Comes in tied for the number 8 best champion in the Mutant class. Bishop tied at number 8 and with Toad was another thing that just really surprised me. But when we looked at the numbers, when we really thought, here's how we're using him. I have a 7-star rank 2 Bishop, and a lot of us do. And when we looked at it, we're like, actually, this is how we're using him. You can see that's why he has a score that's so high. 8 is very, very good. We recognize he's really powerful. There's all kinds of things, and he's punishing the shrug and massive, massive SP2, and he's got a debuff if you want it. And the energy resistance, very, very powerful. There's a lot in that kit, and boy, is he annoying to fight when he's on defense. But when we look at how we're actually using him, Battlegrounds, one of the better dual threats, right? More defensively, but you can bring him in, fight those Korgs, Kingpins, things like that for yourself. But he is a little limited offensively right outside of those matchups. In War, I don't want to say no one's assigning, because he is. I've used him myself. I'm sure some of you have used him as well. But again, he's not one of these like meta staple attackers. So it felt weird for me to give him a 6. But then when we really started talking it through, I was like, yeah, actually, that makes sense. Long form, he's just not built for long form. That's not his thing. That's okay, Bishop. Don't worry. I don't mean to hurt your feelings if they are. And then ease of use, pretty simple, right? You're pairing, you're comboing over and over. You're getting to your special too. You're throwing it. Very good champion. None of this should be taken to say that he's bad. Remember, he's in the top 10, coming with a score of 26, which as you see these videos, you're going to see that's an excellent, excellent score. But someone who, if before I was asked, before this, we did this and went through all of this, I would have definitely said would have been a lot higher up in the ratings. Coming in, tied at number 8 with Toad is Bishop. Coming in, tied at number 6. There's another tie here with 27 points. We've got Havoc. A very, very good champion, right? Like, and I think it should be a compliment. I think people should take it as a compliment that Havoc is a very, very good champion. I always misspell Havoc, and I think I have on this one, but I need to get these done, so we're going to roll with it, okay? He is a phenomenal champion. People really, really like him. I know he's one of the best dual threat champions in Battlegrounds, primarily for his defensive prowess, and then can come in and take some of those like skill purifiers and things like that as well. He's got the massive damage off the SB3. He has a debuff where he can do damage like that. You spec in Despair. He can help you mitigate healing as well. So he's a phenomenal champion. He's just been in the game a long time, and he's someone who I've never really attached to. I don't dislike playing him in the way I dislike playing Toad, but I recognize how powerful he is. Kit has a lot of strength in it, energy resistance, things like that. So definitely give him an 8 based on all the things we just mentioned. In Battlegrounds, really strong dual threat champion, give him an 8. In War, also, you can often see him use, take hazard shift and things like this. So another 8. This is just very the story of Havoc, very B plus sort of work. Seriously, good job, Havoc. We need champions like you. Long form, that's not his deal. That's okay. Ease of use, he's a 2. He's the middle ground. Like, this is the Mario, right? Like, he's not going to be the best in any of these places, but when you add it all up, it's a really phenomenal package. We need champions like this in this game. People really like the playstyle or they don't, and they're going to go and do really great things with him. Comes in tied at number 6 for the best mutant top 10. All right, let's move on to the other number 6. And I know this is going to upset a lot of you. I'm ready for it. I'm aware, and it just, again, backs up something that I've been saying for a long time. And that's okay. The only grain of salt I can offer you is, like, he's the 6th best champion in the mutant class. That's really, really good. There's a lot of champions in this game. But it's Magneto. And the irony is he couldn't, like, if Havoc was like that B plus, Magneto's one of those, like, he's either getting an A plus or he's failing. Like that's just what this guy does. He's so incredibly strong, but in general, it's just metal matchups. When he came to the game, there were a ton of them, and it was eye-popping. It was astounding. I did tons of videos on him. He was very, very strong. But as we actually use him in Battlegrounds, you're not using him that much. He's a decent dual threat. He can be a bit of a trap on defense with a signature ability, but he takes a little while, right? We've talked about this with some of the champions in the other classes. Hopefully you've seen those, where there's these amazing champions like Dr. Doom and Hercules. They're phenomenal, but they just take a minute to get going. And in Battlegrounds, time does matter. Now, that doesn't make them a bad champion. That's why we have this all spread out with a variety of categories. Actual use, War, 8. Now, this again is like, it's a metal champion, right? Usually it's a tougher defender, so you send in the Magneto. This is like your Baron Zemos, your Darkhawks, things like that. He's very good for them, but he's also not someone that you're sending in to take 5, 6, 7, 8 fights on the map. But he is very valuable in those tough matchups. Long form, a 2. There's been some uses for him, but no one's taken him in Necropolis or anything like that. And not someone who, should they put out new long form content, he's not going to be one of your immediate thoughts, but we used him in EOP, and I could see him, should they do more formats like that for us in 2024, people bringing him in. Ease of use. I mean, this literally is the parry heavy that I've been talking about the whole time. You can combo with him. There's sometimes I like to do that so I don't get backed up too much. But this is like the epitome of a number 3 out of 3 in ease of use. 27. I understand how incredibly powerful he is in the right matchups. I get it, and that's why he's ranked so highly, but also just can't rank him higher. This is where the numbers truly ended up. Now tied for the number 4 best mutant champion, and it is a tie between Omega Red and another one. And I know this is where it gets interesting, right? Because there's only a score of 28, and we've known for a while that mutants become the weakest class, mainly because they haven't been getting updated. It's not that the champions became weaker, it's just that the metas move along. Champions are being asked to do more of this and more of that. There's little pieces of utility that allow them to take a node or allow them to take a defender. And Omega Red's been in the game for a very long time. So the fact that he still has a 28 shows you how powerful he is. In general, he's an 8. You go back like 2 years ago, he probably would have been a 10, but more is being asked out of champions these days. In Battlegrounds, if someone has him at the highest possible rank and at SIG 200 and knows how to play him very, very, very well, they can do well with him even without the recoil tree on the bleed, right? Which is often what we see. In War, because he is so safe, he needs to be played well. Think Slaymon, think Lizer, that sort of play, that style, that skill, being able to do the short parries, that sort of thing. He can still come in, he doesn't take the damage back. He does have a massive, massive damage right off of the bat, and he's a relatively tanky when you consider his healing capabilities as well. So he's like one of those ideal War champions where he's got the niche utility, or he's got the utility that often is asked for in War. He's got the quick damage you often want in War, so you can get out of the fight. It doesn't prolong or the fight goes, the more likely you are to make a mistake. And he's relatively safe, either being tanky or through healing. So he's still, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the group, a 10 out of 10 when it comes to War, like a staple attacker. Long form, that's just not his deal. I know he could do some of the EOP. I think that was a node, though, that was putting a bleed on him. So outside of those kind of unusual or untypical asked for occasions, he's just not for those sorts of fights, and definitely not for Necropolis. Ease of use, we put him at a 2. I was tempted to put him at a 3, but you know, you can get some decent results with him, not playing him at that like Lizer Slaymon level. But I do think it's something to look forward to, or to look forward to. It's something to strive for. And also, you know, his high skill ask is, I think, ultimately being able to count his spores when you're going to get the degen out, and then also to do that short parry. That's something that once you nail it, you've kind of got it. It's not like Tiger where you're constantly updating spacing or things like that, or needing to do intercept. So 2 felt very, very good for Omega Red. All right, let's move on to who he is tied with at the number 4 spot. This is wild. Now, we're at the number 4 spot, so it makes complete sense. And yet, Apocalypse is a champion that I've always held in the highest regard. Like when I think about like the top 20 champions in the game, I still think of him. He's one of my first thoughts. When he came into the game, he took the game by storm. I know that I did videos on him even way back then. I was like, I can tell how amazingly powerful this guy is. I very much loved playing him. Yes, power backs help quite a bit. Having the cable synergy helps a bit. In fact, I think the first video I did on APOC, I think the thumbnail title said "Must Love Cable." Well, we found that if you can get some mutants and things like that going, you'll be a-okay without that synergy. He's a 10 out of 10 when it comes to general use, even in today's game. You know, to handle evade and the bleed immunity. I think it's bleed, either bleed or incinerate. Either way, it's fine. Getting around a lot of the shrug mechanics and things like that. It's just, here's the thing. And this is why he's lower. If you look at these metrics, if BGs don't matter to you, he's one of the best champions in the game, like top 5 probably. But he's slow. He is. And he's slower than like your Dooms or your Hercules, who we've talked about. He's much, much slower. So as a result, you're just not seeing him on attack. He's really very niche for a meta that like really asks for him, or you're placing him on defense. But tech has become so strong. And you got champions like Tiger out there too that can take him down, that even though he has a large health pool, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. But if BGs doesn't matter, remove that category too. And if you really like him, like I said, give him a 20 out of 20 or 20 out of 0 for your own personal taste. And he's the best champion in the game. War, even in today's tier 1, he's still one of the better champions, one of the staple attackers. You can use him with the power back boost. You don't have to. Long form, he was amazing. I mean, I used to joke that it should have been called Apocalypse's Gauntlet, not Grandmaster Gauntlet. He just dominated. I think he could take like almost every single fight. I'm not over exaggerating there. And I think if we had more ascended Apocalypses in our game right now, I think we'd be seeing him in Necropolis. I won't be surprised if we do start to see it over the course of 2024. And if other moderate to long form content comes out in 2024, I have a feeling Apocalypse might be a really solid option for them in ease of use. He's a perfect 2. He's not your parry heavy. He's not your Tiger. 2 out of 2. Tied for the 4th best champion in Mutant class. Still very, very, very respectable. Just interesting to see how I think he has fallen off in prestige a little bit. Moving on to the number 3 champion is Archangel. Like now in the right matchups, he's probably number 1. But those matchups, it's been an interesting, like almost like a roller coaster, right? When he first came into the game, those matchups existed where you could bleed him, you could poison him, you could parry him, and he's just shutting things down. And then more and more champions came into the game, and they were poison immune or bleed immune. And then we started having war maps that were blind. Stun immunity became more and more of a thing, and we were still learning as a community how to punish heavies with our own heavy, just kind of a skill thing. And then more and more champions came out. And so instead of having bleed or poison immunity, they had shock or incinerate or something like that. War map became unblind, meaning we could see the defenders. Yes, there was a time where you couldn't see the defenders. You just saw their class. You have to go back quite a while. I know some of you are like, what is this guy talking about? And so here we are with Archangel. 31. I mean, again, this is very, very strong. As you know, you get into those 30s, you're an incredibly strong champion. Even in the middle to high 20s, very strong champions. You are doing a lot of content with these guys. Now, 9 out of 10 for the general score. You think about all the things he can shut down: ability, accuracy, healing, that kind of stuff. It makes a lot of sense. BG's still one of the best pure nukes in the game, but slowly but surely, Kabam's introducing more and more champions whose ability accuracy can't be reduced by mutants or something like that. We keep thinking that it's all Domino, but hey, there's someone else out there in the mutant class. And then, of course, the various immunities, the various shrugs, these sorts of things. As the game gets bigger, yeah, there are places where you can use Archangel, but it feels like they're making more and more inroads into places where you really can't, or what makes him so incredibly powerful or fast is being mitigated. And so either you want another champion who can handle more fights for you, or who's also a decent defender, which Archangel for the most part is not. War, still a good staple, right? If you have a fight you need nuke down, you can bleed, you can poison, you can and stun. You can use Archangel very strategically, like a surgeon's knife there. Long form, I think I used him in Grandmaster's Gauntlet, which is why he still has the 2. If you can bleed, if you can poison, and if you can land your heavies, he might be useful. So we at least want to respect that, give him at least a 2 on there. No higher though, absolutely no higher. And he's someone where, when we do this again in June or next year, I could see that score going down depending on what comes out for us. And then ease of use. I mean, this is literally parry and heavy. This is quite literally, this is what I have in mind when I think of a 3 out of 3 as far as the easiest champions to use in the game. All right, let's go ahead and move on to a tie at number 1. Yes, a tie. I'm going to predict this right now, that if Onslaught does not get changed, and I'm not saying I think he will get nerfed. What I'm saying is he's the first champion that, since the rebalance program's really been an official thing, we have people working on it, we're aware of it, we understand how it's going to work. I also think they've done a phenomenal job, by the way. But he's the first one that's come out that I've thought, there's a chance this one gets nerfed. There's a chance. And so I got the video out saying, like, I want people to be aware of that, because a lot of times gone by where we haven't seen a true nerf. Like, I'm aware of what happened with Baron Zemo. I think that's its own odd outlier. It's a very unique situation, and we don't have 4 hours to really discuss it. But pure nerf, pure like, hey, this whole thing, this is what was intended, and we think what was intended went too far. He's the first one that's making me be like, I want to make sure people know as they're opening up their Paragons, as they're grinding him out. Now, he's still incredibly strong, and I do not think that will go away. I have no concerns about that. What makes him strong will stay should he get tuned down. But if he stays the same, I predict right now that short of another mutant coming out, and even still, if one does, because we don't know what they're going to be, that when we do this in June of 2024, he will be the number 1 mutant. I actually went kind of conservative in these rankings. He originally was a 10 out of 10 general, and the group kind of was like, Vega, that's a little early. Well, I have a 6-star. He's now ascended Onslaught. He's really good, y'all. He just automates. And we've talked about this in some other videos where I've talked about, a champion can do this. They have this ability that can turn this off. He just automates turning off so many nodes. Yes, a lot of them are in the skill class, but a lot of them are just the nodes. And there are nodes that are considered to be some of the most problematic nodes that Kabam throws at us across the war map or in questing. He just turns them off. You don't have to do a thing to turn them off. He just does. I mean, I guess you have to land a parry. So, and then he's got the damage to back it up. I personally don't think he's too strong. I'm not calling for a nerf. I want to make that clear as well too. He's just the first one that I thought there's a chance, because I've been so confident in others and telling you, I don't think they're getting nerfed. I needed to get that out. 10 of 10 in Battlegrounds, phenomenal defender. And even if he's only being used for the skill shrug defenders, that's still enough. That's enough offensively for him to be a phenomenal dual threat. I think he's going to be used for more, but even if that, at a minimum, still very good. War, I've been using him in off-season war. I've seen him now used, and we've had our first war of the tier 1 season. He's been used there. He's very, very good. Long form. I've been using him in Necropolis. Literally this morning, as I'm filming this, MSD just put out a Sully. He put out a solo of Hit Monkey, something I was not able to do. And shock, this is the shock of the video, MSD was able to pull off a fight that I couldn't. I know, I couldn't believe it either, but the young man's been working hard, and I'm proud of him. And then ease of use too. You do have to know what you're doing. There are some very quick punishes. I have a feeling that's going to be the difference in the Hit Monkey fight from me with Onslaught versus MSD versus Hit Monkey is the quickness, the speed at which he's able to do it. So phenomenal job. Not a surprise. The young man's a phenomenal player. But he's not just a parry heavy champion over and over and over. 34, I really do think he is getting started. I do not think this guy is plateauing at all. Let's get more people with him, see him, use him. He is a sight to behold. And then let's move to the number 1 champion in the mutant class. And the number 1 champion, still the queen. It's going to be hard to knock her off, but I think Onslaught's going to do it. But at least for today, December 2023, it is Kitty Pryde. It's definitely, even if Onslaught were to knock her off, it'd be because his score goes up. She's one of the best champions in the game. 10 out of 10 general. We don't need to go over that, right? And we are including, if you want to give her the ghost synergy or the tiger synergy, but even if you don't, she's phenomenal. Battlegrounds, 10 out of 10. She does have some defensive use, but offensively, she's incredible. War, incredible. Long form, apparently very good for it. Apparently very, very good for it. I think over time we're going to see her maybe in Necropolis. We definitely see her in EOP and things like that. If more EOP sort of content comes out in 2024, I don't think anyone's surprised that she may be used. And then ease of use. She's very difficult to use. She's very difficult to use to get those scores. Remember, if you want to play her to 2 out of 3, you know, moderate, more moderate, then you're not going to get those scores. But in order to get those scores, which is where we have her, which is where we graded every champion, she's a 1 out of 3. Now, this was the Mystic class. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think we got right. Let me know what we got wrong. Make sure you check out the full playlist. It has all of the other top 10s as we go through them. We'll be doing all the classes, the best of 2023, and then the best 20 overall as well. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Massive shout out and thank you to my boys over at SSX. So many of them spent a ton of time sharing their knowledge, their expertise, and their experience in these modes, and also helped me come up with the formula in order to rank these champions. Specific thank you and shout out to Bitterstill, Campo, DLL, Gara, Na, Odysseus, Outline, Royu, Shibi, Simula, The Strands, Zahid, Matt Duhill, and of course my boy, Egatron.